Ladies and people who want to have a whole lot of sex with other people, but also the person that you're with, but then also other people, and then you do like other things, otherwise known as an open relationship. And here I'm joined by my lovely girlfriend Imogen.
Hi.
We are both in an open relationship, aren't we?
hmm A,
Hell yeah.
a type of open relationship.
A weird, kinky, messed up type of relationship. So you might be wondering what type of relationship. You also might be wondering, why is my beanie like this? Well, because I'm a little bit shy on camera. 1,500 pieces of content at this point. I'm still a little bit shy. I'm working through my shyness. So, would you like to explain our type of open relationship?
Are you going to put the beanie back to normal at some
I can
point?
fix the beanie. We
Mm.
can do that. Yeah, hell
Yeah, so
yeah.
the type of open relationship that we have is we only see other women together. So we'll see other women, we'll date other women, but together only. We don't go off and see other people on our own.
Yeah, we have a very unique type of open relationship, sort of like a threesome open relationship. We're very much committed to each other. We've been together for 5.5 wonderful, lovely years at this point. And we see other ladies, and I stick my penis in them. You stick your penis in them. They stick their penis in us.
If we're using a strap on, yeah.
That sort of counts as a penis. All right, so we're going to go through some misconceptions about open relationships.
Number one, open relationships are just an excuse to cheat.
Are they?
I'm sure some people use them as such. Like, I think that's the movie cliche where
Yeah.
one of them is like, I think we should open the relationship. And the only reason they're asking that is so they can go sleep with someone that they want to cheat with.
Yeah, people do the same with like, I think we should take a break. Why? So I can get my dick wet or so I can get my pussy dried. What do women do? I want to get my pussy dried by a big fucking dried dick. Yeah, there is kind of that cliche there. And we did a podcast many moons ago, many years ago, back when we were first doing podcasts, so a couple of years ago. And we said we don't, generally speaking, and we're not here to tell anyone what to do, but generally speaking, we'd say be very cautious if you're in a normal, committed, monogamous relationship and you want to open that up.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone comes to us and says, hey, I'm in a monogamous relationship and I'm thinking of opening it up, my general advice is like, I would never say don't do it, but I'd say like, understand that what you're doing is or might require a lot of communication, a lot of talking, a lot of jealousy and insecurity. We started our relationship, and this is generally speaking what I do advise, is to just be very honest and upfront from the start.
Mm.
From the very beginning, even though we were only seeing each other casually, we were just friends with benefits. I said, look, I'm never going to be monogamous. That is not something I'm interested in. I did that for 10 years in the past with like 3 or 4 different relationships. I'm only here for open relationships. You have to be okay with that. Otherwise, if you're not okay with that, that's fine. We can go separate ways and find what we're both looking for. But I was very clear, and we are very clear with the women that we date.
Mm.
Like, look, we're going to see other people.
Yeah. And it's always a lot harder to change the dynamic of a relationship than it is to just set expectations very early. And I think that's what you're advising against.
Yeah, I'm advising. I'm not even advising
Not
against it.
against,
Just
but
understand that it's a lot more challenging if you're 5 years into a relationship and you say, hey, honey, listen, I've been thinking about us banging other people. And you'd phrase it more politely than that. But, honey, I've been thinking like of sticking my dick in some other pussies. What do you think about that?
that's better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to say it. That's the polite way to say it. But it's obviously going to come with its own set of challenges. Not
Mm.
that that isn't possible, but we've just found, and this is more for people that are single or that are in the early stages of a casual relationship. It's just easier to be honest and upfront. It's a big part of our philosophies. I'm very encouraging with being upfront, just treating your partner like they're on the same team, even if it's just a casual relationship.
Yeah. So, which funnily is the opposite of cheating.
Yeah, and there is kind of that cliche, isn't it? That mainstream idea of like open relationships. People say the same stuff about BDSM. They're like, BDSM is just one person using the other person, and it's like, no, it's not. I mean, some people do that, sure, but and here's maybe the other thing I would consider: monogamous relationships aren't free of cheating either.
Oh, of course not.
Like people cheat in open in closed or monogamous relationships as well. So yeah, it's more just about like, and if you did decide to open up a relationship, it's more about, are we both comfortable with this? The key one, do we both want this?
Mm.
Or is the other person just kind of putting up with it because they're like, fuck, like this is I have sunk cost fallacy, like we've been together for 5 years. Fuck, I guess I'm stuck. I have to put up with this shit. So I would only ever do that if both people want it or excited to do it. There might be some hesitancy and some jealousy and some communication that needs to happen, of course. Some insecurities and fears and doubts, of course. But yeah, I wouldn't be sort of opening up a relationship. And to that point, if you've done what we've done and you make it very clear from the beginning, look, this is going to be an open relationship. I am not going to force you to do anything. Are you cool with that? If you come into it with that sort of mindset and that communication, how would you ever even be cheating? Because it's like, no, but we're just doing what we already said we were going to do.
Sure.
Cheating is when you have an expectation and then someone goes against that.
And there is still like ways to cheat in an open relationship. Like I think
sure.
most open relationships have rules or expectations that still can be broken.
Like boundaries, yeah.
And we definitely do. Like if you were to go and sleep with a random woman without me, especially without telling me,
yeah, if I
that
just
would
went
be
off
cheating.
Yeah, same as, and we've talked about this. And boundaries, this is like a separate off-topic discussion almost, but we've talked about this before. Your boundaries don't have to both be equal. That's another thing that we've said many times. A lot of people, if they do get into an open relationship, they're like, oh, I guess we both have to have the exact same boundaries, right? Like, if I'm sleeping with other people, then she has to be able to, or he has to be able to. And it's like, not necessarily. This is more just like, what do I want? What does she want? How do we make sure that we're both getting what we want and we're both happy and this is adding to our lives and not taking away from it? And so to that point, yeah, one of our boundaries is at this point in time, and this might change in the future. It's certainly changed in the past. So that's another thing. You're often evolving and growing together and learning and figuring out what you both want and adapting. Right now, yes, if I was to go and sleep with some other girl, especially if I didn't tell you, we've talked about like, look, if you did tell me, we can talk about it and maybe that would be okay. So that's a separate thing. At this point in time, I don't want to do that. But if I was to just go off and do it without even telling you, like I just meet some girl and I just have sex with her, we in our established boundary relationship that we have right now, we would call that cheating. We would both agree that that would be cheating.
Correct.
It certainly wouldn't be playing on the same team. It certainly wouldn't be me treating you like a teammate or like a partner in this. It would be me going behind your back and going, no, I'm not going to tell her. Like I'm going to do something behind her back.
Yeah, it would be breaking one of the expectations that we have.
Which is integrity, honesty, being upfront, and just talking about shit. It would also be incredibly fucking strange because like we've built our relationship on just telling each other everything, including all the like the elephants in the room, the uncomfortable truths. Sometimes or often we're clumsy with it and we accidentally hurt the other person and then we go, oh, fuck, I didn't mean to hurt you. Like, and then we talk about it. Like we've had such an open, honest communication style in this relationship. It would be really fucking weird to like cheat. I don't know why I put that in quotes, but to actually cheat. Like it would be so unbelievably weird because it would be like, I'm so like if you cheated on me, and we'll talk about the boundaries that we have in the reverse in a second, but if you cheated on me, I would more than anything be confused. Like I would actually think I'm being pranked. I like that would be my first emotion. It wouldn't be like, fuck, why did she? It wouldn't be anger. It wouldn't be frustration. I would literally just be sitting there scratching my head going like, I don't understand why you didn't just tell me that you wanted to do this and we could have talked about it. Like I'm so confused. And I think maybe even more so if we did it in the reverse. If I was to cheat on you, it'd be like, honey, we literally sleep with girls together. And I've already said like, if we talk about it, maybe I'd be comfortable with you sleeping with girls without me. Like, why the fuck did you do this? You could have just like asked me and I probably
Yours makes way less sense.
Yeah, you could have asked me and I would have just been like, yes, that's great. So yeah, should we talk about the boundaries in reverse?
What you have, expectations you have for me.
Yeah. And to be clear, when we talk about boundaries in an open relationship, one thing, and are we talking about this in I don't think we're talking about this. So this is like, I guess, an extra bonus misconception that people have about open relationships. Often they will look at it or they will come into it with the mindset of like, okay, so I have to control the other person. If I'm saying what my boundaries are, that means she's not allowed to. That's a very strong misconception. No, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like I'm a big libertarian at heart, so are you. We're big free love hippies and we want people to do whatever they want to do. But if you go and sleep with another man, for instance, okay, I probably won't be here. I'll say like, hey, look, hey, no, I told you what I was looking for. This is not that. Peace out. The same thing as if I went and cheated on you. You'd be like, hey, look, do whatever you want. I'm not saying you can't cheat on me, but like, bye.
Yeah, it's like you can do whatever you want, but I may and very likely will choose to leave if you break those boundaries that I have.
Yeah, it's about boundaries, not control. And I think, in other words, it's about me, the person with the boundaries, not you.
Correct.
Or flip that around for you. It's about you, yourself, not what I do. It's almost like a weird sense of like, I genuinely don't care what you do. I'm not here to police you or tell you what to do or control you, because when you do that, you don't feel good in yourself. You have to exert control. You have to constantly be anxious and jealous and worrying about it and like reminding, hey, listen, remember, you're not allowed to cheat on me. And yes, you do remind each other of the things that you're looking for and all of that. But yeah, it's not so much about exerting control. It's about what do I want? What am I comfortable with? But on that note of differing boundaries, yeah, for me, if you were to sleep with another man, as we've discussed a billion times from the very start, it's like, I'd be like, hey, look, I appreciate that. That just isn't what I'm looking for. And then we'd go separate ways. You've said the same, as if I went and just had sex with a woman without telling you, you'd be like, hey, look, that just isn't what I'm looking for. All the best. What are other boundaries that we have? If you were to sleep with the, so this is where, I mean, maybe here's another misconception. People often say, we said this before, that open relationships, the boundaries have to both be exactly equal. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite, or that's not fair, or something like that. My question is like, fuck fair. Find me a relationship that's fair or equal. Like, there isn't one. Is there one where people do 50% chores? Fuck no. Is there one where people do exactly equal fucking duties of giving each other back rubs? No. Like, do you sit there and keep score and go, well, honey, I've given you 57 back rubs this month or this year. That would be a lot in a month, wouldn't it? 57 back rubs in a year.
Yeah.
You've only given me 54. You're being a bad girlfriend. It's like you'd have to fucking keep count. But further on that idea of hypocrisy, yeah, like our boundaries aren't equal.
Correct. So you've said that you're okay with me sleeping
Yeah.
with other women. I think I'd be okay if you were to sleep with another man.
I don't want
I know you don't want to.
So
but
do you see what I mean? How, like, I think that's a beautiful illustration of how boundaries don't have to be exactly equal and perfectly fair and shit. Like, what is fair? Here's what I think about when I think of the word fair. First of all, I think like fucking control. I think, not to get off track here, but I think like if you're trying to exert fairness, you have to exert control. You have to force things to be equal and fair when they might not want to be. It's about, well, fairness to me is about what do you want? And are you getting the things that you want so that you're pretty fucking happy? You might not get everything you want. I might not get everything I want. But with what you're getting, are you very happy with that?
Yeah, happy enough with the situation.
Is it adding to your life?
Yeah.
Is your life better for it?
Yes.
If the answer is yes, and then my answer to those same questions is yes, great. That seems fair to me. If anything, it's not even about fair. Fair seems like a low bar to set. We're not going for fair. We're going for, holy shit, we're both incredibly fucking happy and we love this. Fair is all the way down here. What we're looking for is something up here, which is mutual beneficial respect, mutually adding to each other's lives, making each other's lives better, happiness, love, joy, intimacy, connection, all of that kind of shit, authenticity, honesty. Those things are way higher than fair. Fair seems like a fucking, like, bare minimum. No, thank you. So, yeah, we're definitely very differing in our boundaries, and this is essentially, hopefully, giving some of you permission to be different in your boundaries as well, as long as you're both happy. So, I mean, let's summarize. I'm okay with you sleeping with women without me, without even fucking telling me.
Eventually, I would tell you anyway. It would be very
I would
strange
want you
for
to
me
tell
to
me,
not tell you.
but I wouldn't ask you to tell me first, because we've had that question. And again, boundaries is something you can develop over time. You talk about it. Sometimes you don't even know something's a boundary until you try something and one or both of you goes, I don't think I like that. Okay, cool. That's amazing. We've discovered a boundary. That's fucking beautiful. We're figuring shit out together. But I would be okay with you sleeping with or playing with or doing whatever you want with other women as long as you eventually told me. But I wouldn't need you, it's not even about need. I wouldn't care if you told me beforehand. You are semi-okay. I think you'd be pretty fucking okay, not to put words in your mouth, but okay with... I'll let you explain what you're comfortable with.
I think at this point in time, if you were to sleep with somebody that we're already seeing together, like the girl that we're currently seeing, if you were to sleep with her on your own, fine.
Yep.
Don't necessarily want to know about every detail, but that's fine. Like, I know you slept with her, that'd be okay. I think right now, for you to sleep with somebody that I don't know and that you have no intention of us seeing together, no, not okay with that. Potentially okay with you sleeping with somebody first and then us seeing them together, but that is still a grey area.
That's what we were doing like years ago. That's how we
Yeah,
started this.
and
Yeah.
I'm a bit unsure on that one still. So, but for right now, I'm more than happy for us to see girls together as much as you want.
Yeah. Go further with that. So, what about guys? I'm completely straight. I have zero fucking interest in that. And that's a really interesting example of how boundaries are different. You'd be completely okay if I was, say, bisexual. You'd be okay with me sleeping with other guys, like without telling you or telling you eventually.
Yeah, I think the same with me sleeping
Interesting.
with women. I think it's different, and I think I would still put a rule in place of like I don't want you to be romantic. Like I wouldn't want the time with him to potentially take away from our time together. So it
Yeah,
wouldn't necessarily want it to be romantic with another man.
sure. Yeah. Boundaries that we both, or that I might have on you, we said this before. And again, it's not boundaries on you. I know I just said it like that, but it's more boundaries you have for yourself. So boundaries are always about you.
Personal boundaries, yeah.
Yeah, and what you're comfortable with, what you're looking for in a partner, what you're looking for in a mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah, it's almost like the phrasing of it isn't so much I don't want you, it's like I would only want my partner to. So it's
Yeah.
about you rather than them. It's not I
Or
don't
here's
want
what I'm
you,
comfortable with.
or yeah, I wouldn't want my partner, whoever that might be, to do XYZ.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So further on that, I don't want a partner. I was very clear with you about this from the start. I was like, I'm not looking for a partner that wants to sleep with other guys. If you want that, I fucking love that. I even, and I say this, I said this at the time, sorry. I said, like, if you want to do that, I mean, fuck, do it. Like, we'll just keep it casual. So it's not even like I'm not going to be with you.
Mm.
And if I wasn't seeing you, like, let's say I was single and I met some new girl and we were hitting it off, we were having sex, it was great. And I said all this to her and she was like, well, look, I do want to go and sleep with other guys and I probably will always want that. I'd be like, sweet, let's just keep it casual. Like, I will literally even still see you for like years.
Mm.
Like, as long as you want to keep seeing me, I'm completely fucking cool with that. I just personally won't build something like deep and relationship. I'll still be building intimacy with you. I will still get to know you. I will still be a big part of your life and all of that. Probably just I won't take it to that level that for me I call a like hardcore relationship or
Yeah,
an all in
you won't be my
invested.
girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah, because that for me is something that I only give out. I mean, in the past, when I was younger, I just gave it out to whoever would fucking. But now it's like, no, I only give that out when I feel like we have a good shot of being together for the next, I don't know. I don't set a number on it, but like I'm thinking more in terms of decades.
Yeah, pursuing something long term.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that's a difference in our boundaries right there and what we're happy with. It's like, I don't want a partner that will sleep with other guys, but I'm okay with a partner that will sleep with girls if she tells me. And from your side, you're like, I want a partner that tells me if he's going to sleep with girls and only if we're going to sleep with those girls together. And maybe that'll change in the future. And I'd be okay if you slept with other guys. You see how this stuff is like very nuanced and it can be? It can be as nuanced or simple as you want. You were going to
Yeah.
say something.
I was just going to say, really, like this leads perfectly into the next point if you are happy to move on. But the next one is that
Hang on a sec. Okay, go.
is that open relationships lack commitment, or
Yeah,
that's the
that's the
misconception.
misconception. Yeah.
And I think everything that we've discussed pretty clearly exemplifies the fact that there is a lot of commitment. And as you said, like we're in this for the long haul. We plan on being together for until one of us
Yeah.
both die. Not both die, one of us die. That's the plan at
That's
least.
morbid, but yeah. No, it's not even morbid. Like we've talked a million times about death and that's kind of how we see it. We have a very Buddhist mindset about our relationship. Is like, look, I can't promise you I'll be with you forever. One of us will die at some point, or both of us. So like, we can't predict the future, and that helps you. That mindset of like seeing that it does have a finite amount of time together. A lot of people fucking hate that because it's their fear of death, or it awakens their fear of death. But it's like for me, it just helps us be more present. I know we've only got a certain amount of time together. Fuck, let's make the most of it. That's beautiful. So, yeah, there is that misconception, isn't there? That there can't be any, I guess, similar to this, and this will be the next point. So we won't go too into it just yet, but there's a similar one of like, there can't be any feelings. Commitment and feelings are very similar to me.
I think you can have feelings for someone. Like the premise under which we operate is that the people that we see, like we definitely have feelings for the girl that we're seeing. And
Oh, sure.
I get the impression that she likes us very much too. And there's certainly feelings there.
Sure, I just mean in this context. People, the misconception of it. People go, it can't have commitment, it can't have feelings. It
Sure.
has to be shallow. It has to be all of that.
Yeah.
Which is like pretty similar to the next one, which is the next misconception, which is open relationships are shallow. And similar to that, don't have any feelings. Like you can't really get to know each other. You can never let anybody in because you might get hurt,
Yeah, I
all of
think the
that.
misconception is more that it's just like your life is an orgy and you're just having sex with lots of people and that's it. Like you're not actually like connecting. We're not doing like a sister wives thing where there's all of these like feelings. It's just like lots of sex with lots of people and that's the dynamic of it. And I think the misconception is almost that the only way that you can have sex with lots of different partners is by not having feelings. Like that's the only way someone would be able to do that is just by never getting connected, just having lots of sex, it only being a physical thing rather than an emotional one.
Yeah, and this applies to both things. So let's say you're in an open relationship, and you're both seeing, doesn't matter. Let's say you're seeing other people, right? I mean, that is what an open relationship is. It goes, but people have this misconception. There's two parts to this misconception. It's they think that the two main partners, if you are in an open relationship where there are main partners, some of them there's not, but like we're each other's like main partner, so to speak. We've been together for 5.5 years. There's a misconception that both of us don't have a truly, or might not have a truly like deep, fully committed, fully invested relationship. Like we have to keep it sort of shallow and surface level. And then there's the second part, which is, and any girls we must see, or maybe guys that you would potentially, you're not going to, but like guys that you might see, or girls that I might see, whatever. The other partners that you might see, man, you must have to keep it shallow with them too, because like otherwise you'd get feelings, like your main partner might get jealous. And we did certainly have lots of jealousy in the first couple of years. It's something that we worked through. It's something that we talked about. It's something that we still talk about to this day to make sure that you're happy with it, that you don't feel insecure about some other woman, that there isn't that sort of stuff there. But we also frame it in a more positive way. It's like we're not just here to make sure there's no insecurity, because that's focusing on the thing we don't want. We're like, how can we make sure that or how can we enable us to be nice and intimate and close and feel both of our wants and desires are being listened to and met? How can we make sure the same thing happens with any partners that we might date? How can we make sure everyone's having a fucking fantastic, amazing, life-affirming time? And focusing on that stuff, for us, a cheat code has been, or a thing that's really helped with that is like not being so afraid of the feelings. Not being so afraid of like commitment, I guess you would say. It's not even commitment. It's like deepness, depth. There isn't a fucking
Deepness.
noun for deepness. Depth.
Yes, it's about depth.
Yeah, anything to add on that point?
So the next misconception is that only certain people can do open relationships. And I actually agree with that.
Interesting, go.
So I definitely think, because I've spoken to a lot of my friends about our relationship dynamic and what we do. And I've had many, like especially female friends that are like, couldn't do that, would never want to do that. Absolutely not for me. You do you, but like, no way. And I think there's plenty of people that want monogamy. And I would say that the people that want monogamy are the people that could not do an open relationship. I know it's not for everyone, absolutely.
I agree with half of what you said, but I think you said 2 points at once. I'm curious if you realize you went down two divergent paths at once and wrapped them all up as one. So you said at the start, I don't believe everyone can do an open relationship. I would disagree with that part. But you said not everybody wants to. I fully am on board with that part. I think those are two separate ideas. So I would say if somebody, and this was kind of the point of why I brought this up, if somebody wanted, like really wanted to do an open relationship, do you believe that they could? Like, do you believe that anyone who really wants it and is willing to work at it for the years or maybe even decades that it might take to develop the emotional maturity, all of the
Oh,
self-awareness?
of course.
Okay.
The distinction I'm making is that some people don't want it. And
Yeah,
those
and
are the people that, well, you could and then torture yourself your entire relationship.
Yeah,
but
I would not be fucking doing an open relationship if you don't deep down want it.
yeah, exactly. So that's the point that I'm making, that some people don't want it. And then obviously if you do want it, go for it.
Yeah, if you do want it, I truly believe that like literally everyone can. And that was kind of the point of why I put this in here. A lot of people do, especially guys that come to me and go, I really want this. Like just what you have with Imogen sounds like exactly what I have dreamed about all my entire life, but I never thought that I was allowed it. I thought that it was shallow or perverted or wrong. I didn't realize it could be this beautiful life affirming and relationship affirming thing. I really want it, but I don't think I'm good enough for it. Or I think there's like Like the universe has marked me as not good enough and not deserving of this thing. And to those people, what would you say?
You can absolutely like build the skills, I guess, required to handle something. And a lot of it really is just communication. And we have fucked up so many
Oh my
times
God.
across our relationship. And I think I'm going to guess that the person that you have in mind, because you mainly coach men, is a man who feels like it's using women or it's not fair on women or he feels like a bad person for wanting to
It's
have
not
sex
that.
with.
Okay. It is that for a lot of guys, but for the most of them, it's I don't know how I could like fully support and like handle the emotional needs of more than one person. Like handle maybe some insecurity that might come up or some doubts or like how do we talk about this or what if she's not having fun? So it's more like they're worried about themselves and their ability to handle it.
Sure. And full disclaimer, I think handling the needs of multiple partners takes a lot of conscious time and investment.
Yeah, I wasn't good at it. Look at the
No.
first open relationship you and I had. It was with the girl that we were seeing, and we all really liked each other. Really strong feelings there.
Mm.
You were very emotionally vulnerable. You were 18 or 19 at the time,
Mm-hmm.
dating a guy 12 or 13, 12 and a half years your senior. She was a few years older than you. I think she was 23.
Yeah, I think she was my age now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so she was 5 years older than you at the time, but I'm still older than her. She had gone through a lot of emotional trauma and heartbreak and all sorts of stuff and had never been in a relationship. She had always dated super casually because she had trouble letting people in. She had never been bisexual with another girl before. You'd done it a few times, but not a whole lot.
Mm.
You had your own set of, bulimia and self-image issues, and you didn't believe that you deserved a relationship. You didn't think you'd ever get feelings, and you didn't know how to handle them. I had had my own series of past traumas and all of that kind of stuff. It was three children. I mean, we weren't children, but like three kids playing with dynamite.
Mm.
And we did our best, and I think we all did a pretty fucking good job. But there was a lot of insecurity that I didn't know how to handle.
Yeah.
There was a lot of vulnerable moments that I was like, I don't fucking know what to do here.
Yeah, quite a bit of pain and
Yeah.
tears and heartbreak to some extent. Like it
Yeah.
was a bit of a messy situation where everyone had the best intentions,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was a messy situation.
Yeah, and we've had this discussion many times where it's like, how would we handle that differently? And not that we sit there with regrets. It's more like a fun thing. And I try not to go back into the past too often because I don't find it super useful. But every now and then I'll have a little play around and go, fuck, what would it be like to go back and do that again? And it's like, holy crap, like we would have done like everything differently. And
Well, it's so hard to play out that scenario
'Cause you're a
though
different
because things
person.
are so different. And
Yeah.
so like if I put myself back in that exact same position but me now, I probably just would have left.
yeah, me too. Yeah.
And like, if we were together as a couple when we met the other girl, then she probably wouldn't have been there either because I think she was mostly attached to you. So it's a weird
Yeah.
hypothetical, but
Sure.
yes, we would have dealt with it very differently.
The point that we're getting to is we weren't perfect.
No, and we're
We've never been perfect.
a lot better at handling things now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So with this kind of stuff, what original point were we making? I think anyone can do open relationships. Not everyone wants to. I don't think they're a great fit for everybody. I think the vast majority of human beings, and we did a podcast on this many years ago, where I basically said, I don't encourage you to do my lifestyle, like unless you really want to. Like I'm not going to go out into mainstream society and tell every random Joe blogs and Sarah blogs on the street. Like
I haven't heard
what's
Sarah
it? Sarah
Jane Doe.
Jane
Like,
Doe, that's it. I'm not going to tell every random person on the street, hey, listen, open relationships and BDSM and threesomes and all of that shit is for you. Because for most people, fuck no, they just don't want it. Do
And-
I think they could do it? Yeah, but not if they don't want to.
And maybe this is a cliche, but I do like get the idea of this like male fantasy of like I just have all of these women and I sleep with all of these women and
Yeah,
it's like I'm such a player and they're all loyal to me and I just sleep like that's
I mean, you get all that stuff for sure, but like,
okay, yeah. So you get that, but then that comes with responsibility as well.
it doesn't have to be a responsibility. But then don't get confused if you're not going to be emotionally mature, and that is something you develop. You won't be born like that, but don't be surprised if you're not emotionally mature and then things blow up or the girls are just like, I'm fucking leaving. I can't deal with this. I feel too insecure about this, and you're not listening to me, or you're not really like allowing me the space to tell you that I feel insecure about what you're doing, or I feel some jealousy, or I want to talk about something, or I'm not sure if this is good for me. Like, we did have to have a metric ton of conversations. And you had conversations with your mother, you had conversations with your friends where you were like, I need to know if this is good for me. I need to figure out if this relationship, if this dynamic, I guess, is what I actually want. Because for context, again, you were 18 when we first met, 18, 19. You hadn't been in a relationship. You had no fucking template for what a relationship even looks like, let alone an open relationship. And you had no friends who were doing it. And so you were like, whoa, I don't even know if like what I'm doing is what I want to be doing. How would I even know? I've never done a relationship. You said this a million times. You were like, I have nothing to compare this to.
Correct.
Like, literally, I have nothing. And I was in the beautiful position of like, I've been in a lot of relationships.
But most of them weren't healthy. All of them weren't really healthy relationships. So
And so from my point of view, I'm like, are you kidding? This is the most like beautiful, healthy, amazing relationship that I've ever even heard about, including my parents, including like all of my family members and all the healthy relationships I've ever seen. This feels like that even more. This feels like, holy shit, we're communicative, we're all of that. But from your point of view, you're like, I don't fucking know if this is a good relationship or not. So there was sort of a process of figuring that out, which took a few years.
Yeah, it did. And as you
4
said,
years,
we
maybe.
had lots and lots and lots of conversations. And I wouldn't be surprised if the amount that we spoke about all of this stuff in the first year, 2 years, is as much as the average couple speaks
talks
about their
about.
relationship in their lifetime of being
Yeah.
together.
Oh, yeah. God.
Depending, obviously, we're like pulling extreme examples, but
Yeah.
we talked a hell of a lot about it because we had to work through things.
And we both wanted it really badly. Like,
I was just very attached to you.
but you wanted it to work.
Yes,
That's,
because I wanted to be
what
with
I'm
you.
saying.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. And so I wanted it to fucking work too. Really, 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 really wanted it to work. Or for us to be, not just work, because working is the bare minimum, but be like ridiculously fucking happy, which I could see. I was like, all right, there is a map here. There is something fucking beautiful here. I feel like if we just keep polishing this diamond, like it just, holy shit, we got something here. And understand like everything that you've seen me do, everything that you've seen Imogen do over the last 5 years, this relationship for maybe the last 3 years, maybe the last 3.5 years of it, was my absolute number one priority. Like above all else, for you too. Like fucking leagues above everything else. It's like it wasn't having a sex life, it wasn't building this coaching business, it wasn't building all this content, it wasn't the gym, it wasn't friends, it wasn't just getting through the COVID lockdown bullshit. It was none of that. It was like absolute number one was like this fucking relationship. Like I just I wanted us to both, or I wanted myself to get to a point where I felt like, holy fuck, I know what I'm doing with a relationship, because I'd never felt that before. And so I committed like crazy to self-improvement when it comes to this relationship. So did you.
Yep.
And so understand, if you don't have that and you just want to get into an open relationship, you can still do it. Like, it'll still be fucking fun and amazing and everything. Just like, maybe it's a little bit more casual. Like here's the way I'd phrase this. We purposefully wanted to go as deep as we possibly could with each other, and really that's like more of an exploration of the self. Like, the deeper we are with each other, we're more being deep with ourselves. We did it for us, let's be clear about that, so that we could then learn and grow. And then if we were to like move apart or not want each other anymore, we would have that self-understanding for the next person, or like the next person that we get with. Any more on this topic of only certain people can do it? All right, the next misconception, and there's some truth to this one, but open relationships always lead to jealousy and suffering. And so, yeah, there might be jealousy and insecurity. And I've done content before where I say there's no such thing as jealousy. It's actually insecurity masquerading as jealousy. In other words, often when we feel jealousy, we are projecting it onto someone else. We go, I'm jealous of that person. I'm jealous of this other girl. I'm jealous of this other guy. I'm jealous of the people in the gym. But what you're really saying is, I'm not completely secure with myself, because the person who is secure is happy for the people who are ahead of them, or have more money than them, or look better than them, or all of that. You're happy. You're like, sweet, fuck, I'm glad that I'm doing really well and you're doing even better. That fucking makes me happy. So there is sort of the misconception though, like people take it to the extreme where they're like, open relationships are just misery and pain, and I bet you have to just constantly feel like shit, and you hate being in it, and it's suffering, and it's so much work because you have to communicate. That just sounds like so much effort.
And I think all of those stories are coming from people that don't want an open relationship, and because they don't
Yep.
want it, they would be the people that wouldn't be able to do it because they didn't want it. And then yes, you'd have all of those unpleasant feelings because they've from the outset already know that they're people that wouldn't be okay with what it actually entails. So yeah, I'm sure it would lead to awful suffering if you, as someone who doesn't want it, did enter into an open relationship. And I think maybe a more realistic statement is that most relationships of any kind, whether that's romantic or friendship wise, like I think often, as you said, unless there's like a very strong sense of self-assurance and self-confidence, probably have some level of jealousy, whether
Yeah,
they're
and
open or
insecurity. Yeah,
otherwise. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I love that you brought up that point because I hadn't even thought of that, but you're right. It's the same statement. I mean, I don't phrase it like that because I'm a big libertarian, but if someone was to say to me, and I've had a couple of YouTube comments from someone saying like, what you're doing is sinful, and they always go to the religious route, God wouldn't like what you're doing. It's like, bro, I bet God was fucking just doing I bet God's just doing whatever the fuck he wants. Anyway, um, so they go down that route and they go like, you should be doing monogamy. Like, let me tell you what you should be doing. You should be doing monogamy. And when I think about that, I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I could then list you, and I'm not going to because it's not up to us to tell you guys and girls what to do with your bits and with your heart and with all of that. But I could list 100 reasons why monogamy is just going to lead to jealousy and cheating and insecurity, and you're not really with the person because you want to be. You're with them because you feel like you have to be because you have sunk cost fallacy and you don't have anyone. Like, I could list all of the reasons why I don't want monogamy, but it's not up to me to tell you guys and girls what to do. We did that podcast that it was a concept or a philosophy that I got from one of my old friends that was everybody has a different rule book to you. In other words, everybody is going through this game or this sport, this game called life, and they're operating under a certain set of like rules and, preferences and likes and dislikes and the way that they navigate the world, their belief system, all of that. And that's their rule book. And if you just take your rule book and try and shove it onto someone else's and say, like, you have to play by these rules, most of the time that's what leads to the unhappiness and the arguments and the like left versus right in politics and like name calling and just the negative sort of painful energy that comes up when you're going, my rule book is correct and you're evil for having your own rule book. But when it comes to relationships, yeah, we said it before, but this is definitely something that if you're feeling like, man, I just think an open relationship would just be like too much work, like, no, don't fucking do one. Like, we've never at any point, and we never will, I mean, touch wood, we'll never tell people what to do because it's like, no, that just leads to pain. Why would I put my rule book on you? That is like the basis of human suffering is one person or a bunch of people or a country putting their rule book on other people and going, you're bad for having that rule book. You should do our rule book. That just leads to suffering. Any extra points on that one?
The next misconception is that open relationships are only about sex. And we covered this a little bit earlier about the fact that there is depth to open relationships and that
There can be, yeah.
Yeah, you can emotionally connect with your
Yeah.
partners. But I guess we wanted to elaborate maybe on this a little bit more and talk about our situation with the girl that we're currently seeing. Because it's definitely, and this is something that we've evolved, because at the start it was absolutely just sex.
Yeah, the first few girls. So we've been doing this for, at this point, like 5 years, basically. And the first few girls, yeah, it literally was only sex. It was like, come to our house. We still had like a first date, but even on the first date, it was like, we're going to have sex on the first date.
Sometimes they would just come over.
Yeah, sometimes they literally just come straight over from Tinder and we just have sex within like 15 minutes of meeting each other. Even quicker than that sometimes. It was 100% about sex. And we were communicating that to them, and we were finding the girls that were happy with that and wanted the same thing. So they were then communicating that back to us, like, hey, and we did have a couple of exceptions. Like the first girl that we actually dated properly, we went on a couple of road trips and stuff like that. But I would say it was like 90% of the focus was still on sex. It was very sexual.
And I think that's changed a lot, especially as where our focus has moved away, or your focus has moved away from sex. We're more interested in building something, getting to know someone better, having something ongoing so that we're not trying to meet someone every other week.
And to be clear, we're still having sex. It's
Yeah.
still kinky as hell. We're still doing a lot of BDSM, a lot of threesomes, a lot of photo shoots and stuff like that. It's more that the main priority. It's more that we've started looking for something extra on top of the sex. So the sex is still very important, but we've had a couple of days where it's like we just hang out as friends and
Mm-hmm.
like there's no sex, there's no touching. We might talk about sex if it comes up, but like it's almost more like three friends, us and this girl hanging out and just chilling and having a nice time. And that's been nice to not have it's been nice to evolve to that. And it's not about right or wrong. Like if you're at a point where you just want sex and that's what your open relationships are, fucking amazing. That you might never change that. You might be happy with that for the rest of your life. I fucking love that. That's amazing. But for us, we got to a point where we're like, I think we just want some extra stuff as well. I think we want to explore some of those more like emotional connections, ask about their childhood, like meet some of their friends and shit like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been really nice. Next misconception is that open relationships are inherently, as in by their nature, unstable.
Mm.
I mean they can be, yeah. But like monogamy is not fucking stable. Look at the divorce rate, it's like 70% or something wild like that. Like so that's even the highest level of commitment, let alone just having a casual not casual, but like a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. It's like the vast majority of them are unstable. But I feel like that's just setting the goal at something unrealistic. Like if you get into a relationship, a monogamous or open doesn't matter. But if you get into a relationship and your mindset or your goal is we have to be stable like forever, I have to be with this person forever. Like fuck, man, I feel like that's just too much pressure putting on both of you. You're both going to evolve and change and learn and grow.
I think if anything, it engineers a situation in which you're incapable of dealing with, as you said, change. Because as soon as things feel unstable, which change often feels like, things kind of reshuffle and have to kind of realign.
Hmm.
Then you're going to be like, shit, this isn't meant to be unstable. This is meant to be a solid relationship that never feels bad. And then you're going to freak out and be like, well, it's something wrong with it. This relationship is inherently wrong and not a stable one. And we have to break up. And you'll probably never find the stable relationship because you've told yourself that essentially that your relationship needs to be perfect, that it can never feel like it's having problems.
Really well said. Yeah, that's why we say it's why we say give yourself permission to suck. And have a more or it's helped us to have a more Buddhist mindset about this. And for anyone who's not familiar with, parts of Buddhist philosophy, it's about like detachment and not needing something.
Mm.
Like for any of you Stoics out there or any of you guys who love the idea of like being non-needy and being outcome independent, that's fucking Buddhism. That's like come from Buddhism. There is literally a teaching in Buddhism or a whole like sector of Buddhism that teaches non-neediness. They also call it like non-attachment. Basically saying, hey, if this person, Byron Katie is a really good example of this. She's got that great quote where she goes, people come into my life and people go out of my life. I love it when they come and I love it when they go. It's basically just being okay with the fact that life is transient. Like people come in, they fucking float away. They float back in, they might float away. Like that's kind of the way it is. And I think if you attach or cling too tightly to something and say it has to stay like this forever. This person has to be like this. The dynamic has to stay like this because this is stable. It's like you then have to get into control. You have to start controlling the other person.
Mm.
And if they do start to be a little bit unstable, maybe they go through a rough period. Maybe the connection just isn't there between you as strongly as it used to be. Maybe they get fucking cancer. Maybe they're just tired and stressed and not dealing with it very well. If you're attached to this idea of a relationship has to be stable, you're then not going to have space for that person to just be okay with not being perfect in the relationship. How many moments have you and I both had where one of us was really grumpy or depressed for like 6 months in a row? And it's
Mhm.
just like, yeah, if I sit there and say this isn't stable, you're not the person that I know. Like, where's my fucking old person that I used to know? We would have fucking broken up.
Yeah, and circling back to, I guess, linking it to open relationships, because we are technically in an open relationship, I think there is the same level of stability and instability
Mhm.
that would be expected in any relationship. And it's not that open relationships are more or less stable than monogamous relationships. It's a case in which, especially the way that we do it, and maybe I'll just talk from our experience, is that a lot of what we do is based on communication
Yep.
and commitment and trying to, as best we can, create stability and work through challenges together. But the nature of like us seeing and having sex with other people has very little to do with stability,
Yeah,
actually.
it just hasn't. It's so here's another way I could say it. Like there was certainly a lot of jealousy and insecurity in the first couple of years, but name two or three, just come up with two or three, rank them. The top three things that have made our relationship unstable over the last like 5 years. Like rank them in order for you. There's no right answer.
Differing views on money,
Yep.
lockdowns,
Yep. COVID hysteria and bullshit. Yep.
and then expectations about my weight.
Yep.
Those are
100%.
probably the top three.
100%. And if I rank them, like the things that have made us unstable, uh, for me, the order is a little bit different. So for me, it's like lockdowns absolutely made our relationship unbelievably unstable. Number two wouldn't be money, actually. I would say the points where you were figuring out your boundaries and you pushed back a lot on me because you'd never, ever, ever had boundaries in the past. And I think you used a lot of the emotional hurt that you had from your childhood with your father not really giving you a voice and letting you make your own decisions. I think you punished me a lot for that. And you weren't intentionally punishing me, but it was almost like this process of, I got to figure out how to say no. And so I didn't even, at times I did, but for the most part, I didn't view it as like punishment. So maybe I'll retract that word. It was more like you were a beautiful butterfly expanding out of the cocoon, and I happened to be right there. So you kept hitting me with your wings. And I was like, fuck, stop hitting me with your wings. And you're like, but I have to learn to fly, motherfucker. Like, so I'd say that was the second most unstable thing for me personally.
Mm.
And then the third thing might be money, but probably not. No, it would probably be, yeah, it might be money. It might be money. And so, like, nothing that comes up there is like sex with other people or the open relationship parts. Like, those things that we just listed are things that people in a monogamous relationship might go through.
And I think because we got through the most difficult parts of the jealousy and figuring out boundaries and what we wanted, like it's just not something that really crosses my mind anymore because like for quite a few years now I've been happy with the situation and what we're doing.
Mm.
The fact that
Really doesn't come up.
it
We've got
really
this nice
doesn't.
framework in, like, why would we ever get insecure?
The insecurity comes up.
Like we do, but then we just talk about it immediately.
And then it's dealt with and it's
Yeah.
fine.
And often now, we're now at a point of like deep honesty where if you're insecure about a girl that we're seeing, like, you know, the girl that we're seeing right now, you will literally just tell her. Like, you'll literally just say, hey, listen, sometimes I feel a little insecure about you because you're so hot, your body's amazing. Like, I feel insecure about my body sometimes and my weight and my fitness levels and all that kind of shit. And like, and then the other girl will be like, oh my God, no, but you're beautiful. And then she'll open up and she'll be like, sometimes I feel insecure about you, Imogen. And so it's like, why would we ever get to, yeah, I understand why people have this idea. And maybe I wouldn't even call this a misconception. I'd just call it more of like an assumption. A lot of these that we're saying here, by the way, when we use the word misconception, it's not that we're saying these things are wrong. It's just more these are like assumptions. And so maybe I'll even change the title of this video and call it assumptions. No, I think we'll leave it as misconception.
Probably going to do something inflammatory for the title.
No, I think I'll leave it as it is, like common misconceptions about open relationships. I like that title. But it's more almost like assumptions about open relationships. And I wouldn't assume that it's inherently unstable or any more unstable than a monogamous relationship. It can be, absolutely. If you're not communicative, yeah. If we hadn't talked, I think, I can't know, but
Would have ended a long time ago.
I can't know that, but like,
Sure.
I can't see how we would have stayed together if I didn't give a shit about your feelings.
We would have when I first broke up with you about a year and it would have stayed there.
You broke up with me. You call it a breakup, and I'm like, does it even count if it's like half a day? Like
I don't know.
day?
I said I couldn't.
You were basically like, I don't think I can do this anymore.
And then I left and you threw out my stuff and I took some of my stuff from your place and
then the next day I was like, wait, like what can't you do? What could you do? What do you want? And then you were like, well, I told you what I want. I want this. And I was like, oh, okay. I think I could give, fuck, okay. Yeah, no, I'll give you that. Yeah, let's do that. And you're like, okay, fucking. So, yeah, at that point, if we hadn't been communicative, and if we hadn't continued the conversations and the communication after that, and if we hadn't kept talking, if we hadn't talked before that, yeah, I don't see how we would have got past that point. Because how would we even have, basically that conversation and the weekend breakup, as we call it, if we hadn't gone through that, that was us talking about, wait, what are you comfortable with? And you were like, well, here's what I'm currently comfortable with. And then me going, okay, well, here's what I think I'm comfortable with. Does that work together? If we hadn't talked about that, we would have just been like, I guess we are not on the same page.
Mm.
And so, yeah, to bring it back, like, I don't believe that open relationships are necessarily unstable, like any more than a monogamous one. If anything, an open relationship, a lot of people who are in open relationships talk way more than a monogamous one, as you said.
Mm.
Probably in our first 2 years, we probably did talk more than, and we don't know, but
No.
more than an average relationship might do in like 10 years, 20 years. Like, we really did, like, fucking 10 hours, multiple days a week, and then every other day talking for a couple of hours. That adds up. It's probably like 20 or 30 hours a week of just talking and figuring shit out, like every week consistently. There's basically never been in our relationship a time where we haven't sat down and like improved the relationship. Like, there's never been a week where we haven't gone, how can we make this even fucking better? We just have a growth mindset or a self-improvement mindset about it.
Number 8 is that only people who are insecure or have low self-esteem would ever be in an open relationship.
Yeah, to be clear, I think there are a lot of people that get into an or put up with an open relationship because they're like, well, he or she, they got other options. They're going to go and sleep with whoever. And if I want to be with them, I have to put up with this. Like, certainly we've met women like that.
Definitely. And I think if there is some truth in that for me when we first met,
Yep, 100%.
because I definitely at that time absolutely would have preferred that you would be monogamous, but I knew you weren't going to do that, and I was deeply insecure and I wanted to be with you. So I kind of just dealt with it for a year.
And there was sort of an evolution process through that of like you figuring out, okay, what am I actually comfortable with? How do I improve my self-esteem? And I obviously helped with that. We focused a lot on building your self-esteem from the start. I've lost count of the number of conversations we had where I was like, if you want to leave, I would be so unbelievably happy with you for that, to get to that point where you figure out what you want. And if you want to stay, I only want you to be here if you have fully made the decision to be here. And we both know, we both talked about it a bunch of times in the first couple of years even, where we were just like, there's a part of me that's only here because I think that like, I can't do better. And I was like, okay, well, like, let's fucking fix that. Let's get you to a point where you could find someone better than me. And as I say that statement, like, does that feel true to you right now? That you could go out and with effort find someone better than me?
Yeah. And you could do the same for me. That's
beautiful. Good. That's the non-attachment. It's the Buddhism philosophy. I interrupted.
Yeah. And at the same time, there's still the sense of like, I absolutely want to be with you. And so like the point that we're making is that like, like definitely that we're not saying that zero people who get into open relationships are doing it because they have low self-esteem. But then there's also the flip side of that where the two people who are both happily, willingly engaging in an open relationship where they're honest with themselves and know that they want that, I think often have better boundaries, a better sense of self-worth, better communication. And I think when done right, open relationships can be very healthy, happy, thriving relationships.
And do we have a template? Is there 4 questions that we can give to these lovely boys and girls listening to help you decide if the open relationship or any relationship that you're in is like what you want to be doing or healthy? Do we have a nice little 4-question template?
We certainly do.
Oh my God, what is it?
I'm worried I might stuff it up. So one of them is...
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, you might. I know what the questions are, but you have your way of wording them and I might mess it up. Anyway, go.
You won't mess it up. You can say it and then I'll...
One of them is, are you getting...
Stop looking at me like I'm judging. I won't look at you. And you look at me when you're worried about making a mistake. I won't be here.
It's, are you getting more out of the relationship than... Like, are you getting enough out of it for each person? And then are you happy for each person? That's basically what it is.
Yeah, it's like, is this relationship...
adding to your life, that's it.
Yeah. Like, do I feel like it's a net overall positive? And then you ask the other person, like, do you feel like this is a net overall positive? Because that's the thing with relationships. Often people will focus on the bits that maybe aren't perfect yet. And we're not saying to like put up with something that you're really not okay with. Don't, if your partner is like beating the shit out of you every day and you're like, yeah, but golly gee, like she does make a great chicken casserole. Maybe it's worth her like slapping me around and threatening to kill me. Like, yeah. But some parts of a relationship are maybe a little rough around the edges and you're still like sandpapering them and making them nice and shiny and glamorous and beautiful, right? Like, we don't expect every relationship to be perfect. Ours never has been. And we don't ever expect that it will be. We're just trying to be 1% better in each different area every day or week or month, right? But overall, are there more positives than negatives? Or do the positives outweigh the negatives? For me, and then you ask the same question, and then you sort of step back a little bit and go, and generally speaking, am I happy? Like, am I happy with this person? And not happy in general, because often the rest of your life might not be where you want it to be. And so you're generally unhappy. And then you're kind of projecting that onto the other person. But like, in the scope of this relationship, am I happy? Am I happy with this? Am I kind of happy with this? If I'm not, can we fix it? You don't even have to just immediately leave. It's like, can we improve it? Can I tell them? Can we work on some of this shit? Can we make a plan for like how I can get to a point where I'm happy? Can we fix some of the things? It's not fixing. Can we improve? Some of the things are rough around the edges. And then, are you happy? And if you just keep that template or that framework in your head, and you can remind yourself of that every now and then, like, every 6 months or so, you can say, am I happy? Are you happy? Is it a net overall positive for me? Is it a net overall positive for you? You just keep bringing that up whenever you want to. And if you're not, and we've had points where we're not. We've had points where one of us we even have had points where we say, I don't know if it's a net overall positive right now. And then we go, fuck, how do we improve that? And then we fix it. Or it's not broken, but we improve it and get it to the point where, yeah, now I'm happy, cool, great, sweet. So it's this process of like constant iteration. And there's fun in that. There's joy in that. I love having a self-improvement mindset about our relationship.
Yeah, there's so much excitement to be able to build and grow and
It's cool as
closeness.
shit.
It's connecting with one another. Like a lot of the intentional time that we put into our relationship is enjoyable because we are connecting with one another.
Yeah, it's like we're building. I literally think of our relationship like this, and I did a podcast on this. It's on my Spotify channel. Go check it out. I have completely different content to like what's on this YouTube channel. And the podcast was called something like One Brick at a Time. And I was basically talking about how I look at self-improvement, and this relationship is a very good example of that. I look at it like, okay, it's like you're just putting one brick on it at a time. You're slowly building up this beautiful mansion, just one brick at a time. You don't need to build a mansion. That's too overwhelming. But can I just add one brick to our relationship this week? Can we just be 1% better at communication? Can I be 1% better at being patient? Can I maybe when I was going to say something that I know I'm just saying out of grumpiness or anger, can I just not say that thing and just chill for like 20 minutes and then come to you when I'm more peaceful? Like, can I just slowly add little bricks to this building until we get to a point where like, hey, this is pretty fucking sweet. And then just keep adding more bricks. So there is joy in it. It's a lot of fun. And we said this a million times, but if you don't want to be in an open relationship, fucking don't. Like, I'm never going. Every now and then, guys, I always, it makes me giggle because it still happens like from time to time, probably like once or twice a week. No, it's probably more than that. Someone will leave a YouTube comment and they'll be like, they'll just write like a dissertation, like a fucking essay, like they're trying to graduate from their master's degree at college and they've written their fucking thesis on why something I said is wrong. And like, I'll just read it. I never even read it. I read the first paragraph and then I'll just reply. Every time I reply with the same thing. I'm like, I love that you figured out what you want. That's fucking awesome. Like, I love that. That's fucking beautiful. And I think people, even when we literally couch all of our language or most of our language in like, this is just what we want to do. This isn't what you should do. You can do whatever you want. Like, we're loving, free, fucking libertarian hippies. Hippitarians. We're hippitarians. We're libertarian hippies.
I don't think of myself as a
lippies.
hippie. I'm not.
Although you're very libertarian. You never tell anyone what to do.
One of our friends, I think she used the term urban hippie, which I kind of like.
Yeah, you are an urban hippie.
You like the hippie energy without any of the aesthetics of a hippie.
I'll take urban hippie. I'm a drug dealer hippie. I look like a drug dealer.
You do look like a drug dealer.
I often look like a drug dealer, don't I? I
wonder if that's why people... Because I was talking... This is a slightly separate story, but I was talking to my housemate who's a bit older, and she was saying that she kind of just assumes that anyone that has money and is young on the Gold Coast probably sells drugs.
Sweet.
Because they don't seem to work.
If the tax department is listening, I have a very credible business. I have plenty of testimony. Yeah, good point.
We have an accountant.
You can assume I'm a drug dealer. I would probably take it as a compliment. When I first got into, all this dating stuff, just before I met you, around, and even when I was with you, I had lots of girls that I would play this game, right? Because, you get the same boring questions on dates and stuff like, what do you do? Like, what is your job? And that kind of stuff. So I'd always play the fun game to entertain myself of like, what do you think I do?
Drug dealer.
Like, fucking
you
almost every time
dress with
they'd be
the
like, even the nice, sweet little Asian, Chinese little fucking virgin girls would literally be like, I think you're a drug dealer. And I'd be like, what the fuck?
I
Like,
think
why?
it's like you got the beanie and the
I didn't even have tattoos back then. I didn't have tattoos.
precocious jewelry and
It's the jewelry and the beanies, isn't it?
yeah.
I didn't even have earrings.
And
I
you
was
like
like the
your big
nicest boy back then.
shearling jacket. Drug
I
dealer
probably
vibes.
did look like a drug dealer. And then the other joke that I would tell them is I'd be like, no, I'm not a drug dealer. And I would lead them down this garden path. I've written this in articles. I'd lead them down this garden path where I'd be like, look, I'll give you little hints, okay? I help the community. And they'd be like, doctor, like
mafia.
police, like, and I'd just keep leading them down this path. And I'd be like, I work at night. They'd be like, security guard, but that doesn't help. I mean, it kind of helps. Like, do you work at, are you a nurse or a doctor at a hospital at night? Like, and I just keep gently leading them down this path, and I'd be like, I help solve crime, and you know where this is going.
You don't help.
Don't interrupt. Don't interrupt. Don't interrupt. Don't. You can interrupt, but don't spoil it.
Go, keep going.
Don't ruin my great joke.
Okay.
And I'd keep doing this, and sometimes like I would do, you know me, like. And so I would do this for like sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes like an hour or two on the date. And like we'd talk about other shit, but then like later on she'd be like, no, seriously, like tell me what your job is. And I'd be like, I'm not going to tell you. You keep guessing. I'll give you, do you want another hint? And then the next hint would be like, I do work with the police, but I'm technically not part of the police. And the police sometimes aren't happy with me. You could say I'm a type of vigilante. And they'd be like, are you like a bounty hunter? Like what do you do? And I keep leading them down this path. And then sometimes I wouldn't even tell them. At the end of the day, I'd be like, "Hey, I had fun. Like, I'll see you next time." Like, and then and she'd be like, "No," and some of them would even grab my arm and literally like, because at this point they're just like fucking invested. They're like, "You have to tell me. Like, you can't go until you tell me." And I'd be like, "I tell you what, I really like you. I had fun on this day. I think maybe I'll tell you next time." And finally, after all of this fucking teasing, when finally I thought that they'd earned it. I mean, sometimes I'd even be like, look, if we end up getting together and we have sex, after we've had sex, then I can open up to you about this. It's very personal to me. It's very secretive. I don't tell just everyone. Finally, when I thought they were ready to hear it, and they're basically frothing at the mouth, like, come on, just tell me. I'd lift up my shirt a little bit.
What?
Because they had a belt that had a Batman logo on it.
Did you?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
you
I'd
didn't
be
have
like,
that when you were
I'd point to it. And I'd be like, I'm Batman. But I'd say it in a very deep voice. I'd be like, I am the Batman. I swear to God, like every single one of them hit me. Like not hard, but they like slapped me on the arm. I'd be like, oh my God, like, what are you actually doing? I'd be like, I told you I'm Batman. I pulled my heart out to you. I opened up. There's very deep like vulnerability here. And
Sounds like something you would.
I know. Oh my God, you have no idea. I wrote an article about it. You have no idea how many girls I did that with. It's probably even in some of the sex stories that I wrote. I've probably even included it in there. Yeah, I used to do this a lot. What fucking point were we making?
Let's move on to the next
This is why
point,
open
shall we?
relationships are sick as fuck.
The next point is
Hang on.
everyone in an open relationship is polyamorous.
Yeah, they don't have to be.
And we touched on that. Like our dynamic in our relationship is not we just sleep with whoever we want. That's not it at all.
Yeah, it's not really polyamory, is it? And when we say polyamory, I think that refers more to like relationships. Like it has to be a committed, like you're having a committed relationship here and then a committed relationship with someone else, and then maybe they're having a committed relationship with
Or
someone else.
maybe there's like 4 people all in a relationship together.
Yeah. Basically, I think people come to these with a lot of assumptions. Like they might see, a really good example is maybe they have seen Mormons, like the polyamorous, like actual religious communities where it's like a guy or I believe certain Muslim countries as well have like multiple wives, right?
You're talking about like the sister wife situation where there's like one guy and he's
multiple
providing
wives.
for like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, but he's the idea is like he's committed to all of them.
Correct.
It doesn't have to be that. It can just be like you're having a bit of casual sex on the side, and as long as everyone's happy with it and everyone feels like they're growing and evolving and they're enjoying it, including the people that you have sex with, I think maybe that's another assumption that happens a lot is like, especially for people doing what we're doing, where you're a couple and you're having threesomes with other women, even some of the women in the early days used to have this assumption, and because we were putting those vibes out there as well, but they'd have the assumption of like, oh, I'm just like a fuck to you. I'm just a throwaway sex to you. You guys don't care about me.
And to some
Yeah.
extent, we were throwaway sex to them because that was
Yeah,
the energy that
100%.
we're putting out.
Yeah, we weren't looking for something. We weren't screening for people that wanted to be friends and to grow and evolve and to be good for each other, like add to each other's lives and shit like that.
And I think the point that you have said a lot, not only with relationship dynamics, but in life in general, you can have whatever you want. Like, there is no cookie cutter, like, this is an open relationship. Whatever dynamic you want, there's going to be at least one other person on the planet that is going to want
Well,
what
in this
you want.
case, there would need to be more than one person on the planet who wants this because we're talking about open relationships.
Sure.
There's at least two.
But there's gonna be compatibility out there, and you're allowed to have whatever relationship you want as long as you're just making sure that all parties are happy.
Yeah, and on that note, a lot of people say like, "Oh man, but like, how would I ever find a girl that wants like a bisexual?" They look at us and they go, "How would I ever find a bisexual girl that wants to have threesomes with me and other girls? Like, how would I ever find that? And then how would I find girls that are open to that?" And it's almost like this. Here's what I'll say to that: there are lots of women that may have never, lots of people that may have never ever considered an open relationship in their entire fucking life, like they've just always done monogamy. And you say to them, "Hey, look, here's what I'm about, or here's what I want. Do you want to explore something like this to me?" And the person goes, "Oh, yeah, I'd be down." And you both try it, and you go, "Holy fuck, this is great! Holy shit!" Like the number of coaching clients I've had that have find girls that had no interest in ever doing something like this until my coaching client said, "Hey, would you like to try this?" And the woman goes, "Oh, that's fun. Hell yeah." And then they both have an amazing time together. So it's not even that you're going out and finding the people that are already doing this. You're more just saying to people, "Look, this is what I think I want, or this is what I definitely want," depending on how certain you are about it. Do you want to try this? There'll be a lot of people that are willing to try it and plenty that will love it.
And I think maybe I'm making an assumption here, but a lot of the people that are saying, like, I don't think anyone would want what I want, are often people who've never asked
Yeah, you've
anybody.
never asked a single person.
You've just made the assumption that, like, no, other people don't want that.
For sure. Do you know how many people are in that exact situation? And I have a really recent example that isn't about this. It's actually about business. So something that has come up a lot since the end of the COVID lockdowns and the work from home and all of that stuff, like people are generally speaking in most industries starting to go back to offices and the workplace, right? There's less and less work from home. I've had multiple coaching clients right now, like recently in the last 6 months, who've said, "I want to work from home, like I want to work remote, but there's no opportunities." And I'll say, "Have you asked any of the places that you've applied to?" And they'll go, "Well, no, because they're not advertising that they're remote." And I go, "But you haven't even fucking asked." Best example is one of the guys who right now is a coach. Like he's evolved to become a coach in the program. I'm assuming you know who I'm talking about. And same shit. He was like, "Oh, I really want remote, but it's not possible." I was like, "Why don't you just ask your boss if you can go remote?" And he's like, "Well, there's no opportunities at the workplace." And I was like, "Fucking ask." And he asked, and the boss is like, "Yeah, we can do that." And then we've had other guys that have since then gone, "Oh, I can't get remote." And we go, "Just fucking start asking." Or you can even say, "Look, it is a requirement for me. I will only take this job." And you be upfront. You say it from the get-go before you've done an interview. "I will only take this job if it's remote. I'm willing to take like a $5,000 pay cut or something like, and I'm willing to like come in for meetings if I need to." Like you work with them, you figure out a solution, but you're basically saying, "Look, this is a deal breaker for me," or "This is like a hardcore like boundary for me." So many of those, I say so many, like two of those guys have then found places that are like, "Yeah, I guess we can do that. Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." And so there will be lots of people in the world that are absolutely happy to give you money or give you an opportunity or get into an open relationship with you or try some weird kink. I mean, it's not weird. Try some unusual kink that maybe you've never expressed to anybody and you think like nobody in the world could have this, like, I don't know, foot fetish where I rub fucking paprika and chili powder on my foot and then she licks it off. Like, you might think like that's just, no one's going to have that. You suggest that to a few women and they're like, "Oh, you kinky fuck, I like that. Yeah, go on then. Let's try that. Let's try this paprika hot sauce foot rub lick thing. Sounds hot, actually. Do you want to try that with me?"
I'm not looking
Okay,
at that
being
concoction.
genuinely serious, if I put hot sauce on your feet and licked it off, like let's say that did turn me on and maybe this is me opening up to you. It's not. But if it was, like, would you try that with me?
I'd try it. And if it was,
Do you see?
like, if you really liked it, I could do it more for you because I
Yeah.
want you as
But
my
imagine
partner
if
to
I just
feel
got
good.
so desperately horny from it, like it was my biggest fetish. Would that turn you on? Just seeing me get unreasonably horny from it.
You have to try it to see, but often
See?
a partner's passion is a lot of what is hot in
Yeah, it might
sex.
turn you on to see me really turned on by this kink.
Yeah, the point that we were making is that you can
That's a
have
great point, kiddo.
the dynamic, whatever dynamic in like you want in your relationship, you can have that, and
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be what everyone tells you it has to be.
Absolutely. So, we'll finish up. We hope this was helpful. If you would like coaching on any of this or anything else, there's a link in the description below. I would like all of you to leave a comment actually and tell us, would you find it hot? No, here's your fucking mission. Any guys listening? Actually, anyone listening, if you're in a relationship of any kind, casual, married, doesn't matter, I want you to say to your, and do whatever you want, I want you to say to your partner, would if it turned me on, if it was like my biggest fantasy, and maybe this is my confession to you right now, if it was my biggest fantasy to put some hot sauce on your toes and lick it off, like that would just, oh my God, that would like just fire me up, pun intended. Like, would you try that with me? And leave a comment and tell us what your partner said. And I think you'll find a lot of them will be like, what the fuck? But then a lot of them will be like, yeah, you know what? I'd try it for you. And so that's the point we're making. There's a lot of people out there that want open relationships. Open relationships are like hot sauce on the toes. You just have to ask a lot of people, and quite a few of them will say, hell yeah. If that's not an inspirational message to leave a lot of you with, this might be my most life-changing content that I've ever done. Like, honestly, I think this is probably my best content. It's the best metaphor I've ever come up with. You're nodding, so you agree. I love you.
I love you too.